Yeah. All right, Rob, over to you.
Okay, like the first slide, if I could. Here's the agenda, and we will be repeating, we'll put this agenda up every time when we start a new section.
We're gonna eat the sandwich.
Okay. So just doing the introductions. First of all, hi, I'm Rob Overton, an international umpire. I've been doing college umpiring since a long time ago. Longer, I think, as long as anyone in this country. I was actually a college judge back in the days when there were protests in team racing, and there was a marathon Mesa championship that went on. The protest meetings went on till at least 2 o'clock in the morning, and we were doing 15-minute protests. So that's tells you how many protests there were, and that was the point at which college sailing said, "This, we got to change this." And now, of course, umpiring is common and all through college. I'm a national judge, and I'm also the chairman of the Team Race Rules Working Party, which means with that group is responsible for writing the team race rules. So if you have any suggestions for changes that you think are wrong in Appendix D, which is rules for team racing, or in the call book, or anything else, please just shoot me a line. I'm in the directory at US Sailing. Sandy Grosvenor is international umpire, international race officer, also does a huge amount of umpiring, and international judge. And Alice Leonard, former college coach and currently living in New Haven. I'm sorry, Guilford, and is national umpire, and but outstanding. That certification should not fool you. Outstanding umpire, and I'm just delighted to have Alice here. Also, really familiar with the college game.
And this is a woefully short list.
Yeah,
missing probably half of us.
This doesn't cover it. This doesn't cover it. Yeah, a lot of the materials in the seminar were compiled by other people, and the particular ones that this came from, Brad Dellenbaugh, international umpire and American, who's big on, very big factor in team racing. Bruce Hebbard from the UK wrote the call book originally. And Peter Wilson, who contributes huge amounts to this sport in all respects, in particular to this our seminar we're giving today is very much Peter's. Tom Duggan, international race officer and also great team race umpire, although he doesn't do that much of it anymore. Steve Wolf, who is in charge of all the racing, the team racing down at New York Yacht Club in Newport, and he contributed a fair amount of this too. So we're going to be covering pretty much what you'd expect. It's what we're not covering that's of interest. We're not going to cover details on team racing. If we were ordinarily conducting a team race umpire seminar, we'd expect that most of the people in the room don't know a team race from a hole in the wall, and we'd have to teach them something about team racing. We're expecting here that everyone at this seminar knows enough about team racing to follow along what we're talking about. In particular, the winning combinations, strategy, etc. We are not going to cover the basic team racing rules. We hope that everyone knows those, and if not, please go to Appendix D and mainly to the team race call book and study that. Also, we're not getting into the details of the ICSA procedural rules, which are separate rules for college sailing. We will talk a moment about Rule 42, but that's all. And we're not going to cover any of the stuff that you need to know to be a chief umpire, on the theory that that's not really what this is intended for. So to start off, we want to take a little survey. And so we're asking you, if you don't mind, scan the QR code that's here on the screen on your cell phones and do what it says on the cell phone.
I'm going to give everyone a minute to get the QR code.
How about if you're one of those old fashioned people that doesn't have a smartphone?
You can type in the address up at the top or on your computer or onto your phone. Or you can just audible your results when we get to the next slide. We can go analog too.
Can you update those results by hand, Alice?
Yeah, I'll vote.
This is definitely fun, Alice. This is new technology to me, and I think it's really cool.
I hope so.
Okay, I think the 42% is partly due to the ringers I brought in from Patrick's group. And the emphasis here is going to be teach that first group. Okay, so please assume if you've already been an umpire and we seem to be saying things that seem trivial to you, please excuse that. We really want to be sure that everyone of that 50% who have not done umpiring understands what we're talking about.
Yep. Yep. The none bucket is growing.
The none bucket was a little slow. It was. You guys don't realize it was a race. You're being scored on how fast you get this done.
All right, the next question is probably equally important. Looks like we've got all the answers in here. So what are you hoping to get out of the seminar? We can use this to help guide where we focus some of the discussion.
We got to sign up whoever potentially wants to run a team race umpire seminar in the future.
Great. I think these are all good points, and I think largely covered in what we have in the agenda. So that's good news.
I have a very quick anecdote on the person who wrote in. He wanted to help his own getting practice for team racing. We conducted a judges seminar one year in Florida that I was conducting, and who showed up but Anna Tunnicliffe, and she was in the middle of an Olympic campaign. We said, "Well, Anna, you're interested in becoming a judge?" She said, "No, what I want to do is know how judges think." So I thought that was excellent. She went on to win a gold medal, so I guess she was successful.
I'm sure it was the umpiring seminar.
It must have been a judge seminar. That's right.
All right, should we get
Okay.
into the details?
Umpiring safety, publications, umpiring principles. So obviously, our major job is to resolve on the water incidents to the extent that the competitors don't already. Most incidents are resolved on the water by the competitors. Somebody spins. So we actually don't get involved as often as this would seem to indicate. And that's a really good thing. I'm not even sure we could handle all the calls if people didn't spin. So that's we tend to only get the tough ones because the easy ones where both sailors realize who broke a rule, the spin is automatic, sometimes without a protest. In order to be an umpire, you really do have to know the applicable rules. In the beginning, at the Racing Rules of Sailing, it's RRS. You don't need my video. The Racing Rules of Sailing, and that's of course mainly the section 2 on when boats meet. You should definitely have a good firm knowledge of that. Appendix D is the one to look for team racing rules. Not easy to read, I gotta warn you. And Appendix UF that's mentioned in there is for umpire fleet racing in case you want to try that. The main rule interpretation is in the team race call book. The case book also has universal applications of rules and might be worth a glance, but the call book is really critical. And you really have to demonstrate the ability to make fair, correct, and consistent decisions. You can't bias your decisions based on who it is you're umpiring. You can't remember that was the guy who cut you off last year at the finals. You just have to call it as it is. So that's an important thing that you have to force your mind into making sure that you do it, that you really are. To some extent, some of us like me have an advantage in that I don't personally know most of the competitors, and therefore I can pull back a little wise. But you guys, many of you do know the competitors or will know the competitors. You really have to be careful, to be really fair, not only to be fair, but to be seen to be fair. Here are the publications that we think would be a good idea for you to have. The rule book, which I think everybody ought to have. It's much easier to look in the rule book than it is in the app for a lot of situations. Then on the phone, on your iPhone or Android phone, there's an app provided by US Sailing, and that's automatically, it's free to you if you're a US Sailing member. And of course you are, right? And if you're not, you should be. That's how we support the sport. I understand some of you are college students and can't afford it, but still, it's not all that much. The Team Race Umpiring Manual is actually an excellent publication. You can actually read it. You could sit down and read it. And I think I strongly recommend it to you. Most of what we have in the seminar is brought out of that. The casebook, not so much. This is for all of sailing, including fleet racing. It does describe important issues in the rules, but many of them are in the noise, in my opinion. Much more important is the call book for team racing. You really have to read it. You have to sit down, and it's long and it's complicated, but it's kind of fun because it's got pictures and you can decide before you read the call what you think the outcome is, and then you go down and see whether they got it right. There's a document published by ICSA about Rule 42. I'll pick out a couple of the highlights in a slide later, but that's a full description of it's a guideline. It's not a rule, but it's it's been adopted officially by ICSA. And of course, the Intercollegiate Sailing Association has its own procedural and class rules. And there's one new one every 4 years, with the 21-24 version. You should read if you're going to be involved in any of officiating in any way or running races. And we listed the ISSA for high school racing because something you really want to look into is the possibility of doing some high school umpiring. High school sailing desperately needs umpires. They conduct something in the order of 500 events a year. And those are the ones that are reported to headquarters, in addition to any unofficial ones, friendlies. And so if you're looking around for umpire opportunities, look at the high school sailing scene. They need you badly. I know those guys. I don't think we usually umpire in this boat. That's a little small even for us.
I've umpired in a boat that small before.
I have too. I umpired in a ski-doo once. Is that you? No, it's not. That's not the one with Sandy. Okay, the big issue in safety is falling out of the boat. And umpires have and do fall out of the boat, as do coaches and other people involved in operating small motorboats around sailboats. And it's really dangerous. In more and more in recent years, we've become more sensitive to this. And you definitely should wear a safety device to kill the motor, kill switch, to kill the motor if you fall in the water. The picture on the left is a famous one, when one of our friends and an excellent umpire fell out of the boat, and his umpire boat went at full speed, crashing into a dock. But if you think about it, that's not the worst thing that could happen. Suppose that had been an opti. So there's two kinds of kill switches, and the one that's shown on the top picture here with the cord on it is known to everybody, I think, here. And it is a little clip that inserts in behind the key or to a separate device. And that has the disadvantage that it can't be overcome. If you fall out of the boat, you take the kill switch with you, and the other umpire can't come back and get you. So I, for example, bring a spare universal kill switch in my kit, so that I have some way to get back to the other umpire if they fall out. But put that around your leg or clip it to your life jacket or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm going to if I
Go
may
ahead,
just interrupt and push a little bit more. Kill cords, or they come cutoff switches, are going to be legally mandatory, I think, sometime this summer. So every boat under 23 feet and with more than 3 horsepower. So they're mandatory. They're safe. They're a good idea. If you are one of the college programs that has wire ties permanently enabling your cutoff switches, please get rid of them and get some cords and get people using them.
And don't be afraid to say to your fellow umpire, you don't have your cord on. The second thing that's demonstrated here, you may not be familiar with, it's a wrist band connected by radio frequency to a device in the boat. So it recognizes when you've fallen overboard and into the water. It actually, it's being underwater that causes it to lose its radio signal. And it works like a dream. It's great, and it's overrideable. It's a button that your fellow umpire can press when you're swimming around in the water, and he gets to, that turns the motor back on again, and allows him to turn the motor back on again, and so on. However, there's two things you have to know about these. The first is they need to be turned on when you take off in the morning. And the second is they need to be turned off at night. If they are left on at night, they run their batteries down, and the next day you don't have a kill switch. That can be overcome, it can be overridden by the button, but that means that for that day you don't have the kill switch anymore, and that's dangerous. So you got to remember to turn it off. But everybody, let's start really paying attention and doing that. So what is judicial temperament? And here it is. The many times that you've had reasonable conversations with competitors and have gotten it right, and they thank you and so on, can be completely blown away by that one time you lose your cool and start screaming at somebody. And I've seen it happen. And in fact, I have no invite lists of umpires I don't invite back for that reason. So you guys are probably aware of this. Many new umpires are not so aware that it's really important to know who's winning the race. All of you know the winning combinations. You should be able to say, okay, blue has a 1-4-5 here. I tend to always announce the winning fleet and their combination in that respect, instead of working about the losing combinations. But the key reason there are two reasons for doing that. One is you cannot anticipate what the plays are going to be if you don't know what the combinations are. And the second is you have to know what the actual combination is, because if there's an incident and that combination changes and it can't be solved by just penalizing the boat that broke a rule, then there's a hearing later to maybe turn the race over. So you do have to know the score. I try to announce the score or have my partner announce the score just before and just after we get every mark. You have to anticipate likely plays because you have to look at the pressure points. We have to position ourselves to see those plays. We'll talk a bunch about that. You have to understand the rules that apply, and that's really critical. And you really have to be able to make decisions promptly. I have a number of friends who are really excellent judges and rules type and so on, and they're just terrible umpires because they want to think about it. And there just isn't time to think about it. Alice? No. I mentioned objectivity before, and it's really important that umpires be viewed as the people who keep the playing field level. Actually, even not out there on the water, occasionally there are issues about what should be done in a regatta format and so on. And the chief umpire gets consulted, or even other umpires get consulted about what they think about it. And it's really important that they base every recommendation or every decision totally on fairness and not on their own personal prejudices or preferences or lives. So first, do no harm, better green than penalizing the wrong boat. Of course. Real-time certainty is critical. We wanted to address that a little bit. All three of us discussed this yesterday, and in team race umpiring, you're rarely totally certain. But you do have an idea, you do think you know what happens. You think, okay, that boat was overlapped to leeward and she changed course and it was too soon or too fast or whatever. And that's the basis for your calls. So please don't interpret, for team racing at least, don't interpret the word certainty to mean with the mind of God. What it means is you're sure you know what happened. If we required being absolutely certain every time we made a call, it'd be all green. Consistency on and off the water. And responsive rather than intrusive. We work for the sailors, not the other way around. Next slide. Alice? Respect from competitors is key, and just it's really important not to carry yourself as if you thought you were God. I mean, there are umpires that I've seen who just feel like they know everything, and they tend to talk down to the competitors. It's a really bad idea. Always be willing to admit when you made the wrong call or made a mistake. This is so critical, and this is not just something nice we're saying here in bullet 2. This is actually how umpires behave in my experience. Every umpire. It's really the standard. Understand the umpires in the race committee are on the same team. It's not a good idea to undermine the race committee by making comments to competitors about what you think the race committee did wrong. Doesn't help anybody. Help everybody get on the same page. Always accept you have more to learn. And become a team racer if you're not one already. I think most of the people in this room, we don't have to worry about that, but some of it don't. And it's not easy to figure out how to become a team racer if you're not one, if you don't go to college. But there are opportunities and you should seize on them if you can. So when you make a call and how much information should you communicate with the competitor and how should you do that? And so overall, the overview is this. There are times when you make a call and you know perfectly well that the competitor won't have a clue why you made that call. And at that point, it's really worthwhile to simply add a word that says what it was. Rule 42 is the most on propulsion is the most obvious example where you know the competitor rocked at the start illegally and you called him on it, and it just doesn't hurt to yell rocking rule 42. Plus that informs everybody. If the explanation is longer than a short word, then save it. Do not interact further with the competitors during the race. If they want to continue to discuss something, which sometimes they do, you unfortunately can't leave because you got to stay an umpire. So what you say is sail on, and that's understood by the competitors to mean shut up. And hopefully they do. In my experience, they always do. After the race, if there's a time, now frequently our next job when a race is over is to get to the next start. And the rotation is key, is critical. It's the king at team race events. So that's the first obligation, and it way overrides any need to talk to competitors about anything. So if you have to get back to the next start, go. But if there's time, what you do is hover around the finish line, watch the boat that you think might want to discuss the rule. Do not go over to them and volunteer to discuss the rule or the call. Just stay within hailing distance. If they do call you over, hold the discussion while they're sailing back to the change dock so that we don't slow down the rotation. If it becomes heated, break it off, apologize for leaving, but leave. Don't allow it to escalate to a point where you might have to take further action for unsportsmanlike conduct or anything like that. You just don't induce unsportsmanlike conduct. On shore, if a competitor comes up and asks you about a call you made or about any rules issue, it's a really good idea to just collar another umpire around. It doesn't have to be your partner or anybody else, just one of the other umpires, and bring them into the conversation. So there's two umpires there instead of one. Next slide. Suppose they do call you over and you're going to talk to them. Here's what you do. First, decide which umpires to talk. Only one umpire talks to the competitor in general. The other umpire might say good luck when they split apart or something like that. But it's in general, we don't want to gang up on the competitors. We don't want it to be a 2-on-1 conversation. Sit down on the tank of the rib. Don't stand up and look down at them, at the competitor. We want to emphasize that this is a conversation amongst equals. If you can remember to do so, take off your sunglasses, take off your hat. Whatever makes you more approachable and open to conversation is good. Basically, there are two ways we start. The first is to say, well, here's what we saw. And the other is, what did you see? And if you have any doubt about which one of those to do, I'll give you an example. We make a call and it's at a mark, and a boat thinks she had mark room, clearly thinks she had mark room, clearly attempts to take it. Our opinion was that she was not entitled to mark room because she wasn't overlapped at the zone, or she didn't get the inside overlap. And so we know that their problem is that with that. So it pays then to just say, look, here's what we saw. What we saw was you didn't have the overlap at the zone. On the other hand, sometimes you make a call, or many times you make a call, and you think the call is pretty obvious. The facts are right there, and you made the call, and you and your other umpire didn't have any problem with it. And so there, it's reasonable to instead to say to the competitor, what did you see there? Because they may have seen things that you didn't see, and they may have different set they may have a different framework, or they may not understand the rule, but in either case, it pays for them to express what they saw. Make sure you respect their view, no matter which way it is. Make sure they get a chance to say what they think. And it's much better to say what you saw than what you think is true. So don't say you were overlapped at the zone, because that's combative. You can say we saw you as overlapped at the zone or not overlapped. And that's our opinion. Do not coach. First of all, what do I mean by that? And that is, when you're talking about a rule, you could say, okay, well, if in that situation, if the boat that luffs too sharply and the other boat doesn't have room to keep clear, then that's rule 16.1, changing course, and we penalize the boat that changed course. That's not coaching. But if you say, you could have avoided being in that situation by taking that boat stern instead of going inside, that's coaching. Don't do it. For two reasons. One is you're not a coach and you're no good at it. And the second is they already have coaches. If what you say agrees with what the coach will say, then you're redundant. And if you say something that disagrees with what the coach is going to say, you're interfering with a good process. So don't do it. And the big line at the bottom, all in red, and it should be, is if you were wrong, admit it and apologize. You come up and you say, what did you see there? We greened it. And they say, well, we had contact. And you say, okay, we didn't see the contact. And that's how we based our call. So sorry, we didn't see it. That's all I can tell you. Much better to, I do have to tell everybody here, by the way, I have not had a single conversation, I don't believe ever, with a college student on the water, this sort, where we're discussing a call that didn't end with the college student thanking me for it. And it brings me back. I'll tell you, that's one thing that makes me come back to the next college event. I'm happy to do it. It's not as long as it's important for the competitors as well to try to maintain a collegiality so that the umpires will come back. Next slide. I put in this one slide about weather. This isn't part of the normal briefing, but you're in New England. And umpiring in team racing means standing around in the spring when it's really cold. What you got to realize is you're standing still for hours on end. You're not racing. And directly under your feet is water that's just barely above freezing temperature, that just saps energy out of you. The sailing gear that you guys wear when you're racing dinghies is just totally inappropriate. It just doesn't work. So you remember, oh, well, that's what I wear when it's really cold. That's not nearly enough for umpiring. You want to layer up. And as you all know, of course, cotton kills. Wear boots or shoes with thick soles. And I'll show you what I wear. All right, here it is. See, I bought this at Dick's Sporting Goods some years ago. And these are waterproof hiking boots that, they have a Gore-Tex liner in them. And then they also have Thinsulite insulation in there. So they're nice and toasty warm. They're a great idea, and they're way better than way more expensive boots that come up to your knees or whatever. They're great. I recommend them to everybody. But even a pair of thick sole sandals is better than with waterproof socks is better than the kind of boots you wear. The kind of boots you wear for sailing, for hiking out, just not good. They will freeze your feet off. So years ago, I was sailing with this other umpire. Her name was Sandy Grosvenor. And I said, wow, my feet are getting wet. And she said, well, that's because you don't have on waterproof socks. I said, I'd never heard of them. So she introduced me to waterproof socks, and I've been wearing them every event in cold water since then. Really worth really worth the purchase price. They're made of a merino wool, and they are waterproof, and they just work great. And as I said, you can wear them with a pair of good solid sandals with thick soles as well. And they're just as good as wearing boots.
And they're a lot cheaper than Dewberry's.
Yeah, stay away from Dewberry's. Dewberry's are enormously expensive. You can't run. You can hardly walk in them. And but a lot of the time, a lot of umpires like to wear them because they look cool. Protect your head and neck. Remember, that's where you lose your heat from, and you're going to be standing there for maybe 5 or 6 hours in the cold, blowing. Every year I umpire at least one event in the snow. So just remember, you got to have your head and neck covered, a gaiter and ski cap and so on. Bring hand warmers. You know, these things, they're cheap. Put them in your pocket. Your hands get cold, take them out and wear them. Make sure you're covered with really waterproof stuff. Don't just have a spray top. And that's it for me. The next, Sandy.
There we go. Unmute myself without having to hit the space button the whole time. Well, Rob's only 12 minutes behind. Okay, excellent. All right, so the key, we're going to talk about umpire speak here. And the key here is laying the groundwork to get to good decisions. So with good decisions, we got to know what situational awareness is. I'm presuming that we've got a largely college team race audience. That's what the course is targeted for. And your situational awareness should already be pretty outstanding. Good positioning of the umpire boats, dialogue between the umpires. We're going to talk about a standard vocabulary. All of those are part of how we get there. Decision on the rules. Hopefully we've decided who broke a rule before the protest process, before the sailors have had a chance to yell protest and put their hand up. And we work, and the whole process is designed to work us towards agreement during the umpire discourse. The history of umpire speak came out initially out of match racing when it first went in, I think, in the America's Cup back in San Diego. But they started with this role modeling concept and realized it's a good way to stay with the action live and be ready for a decision rather than kind of look at it. And at the, when somebody flies a flag, say, I don't know. So that was a process there. Next slide. So as Rob already said, we only penalize when we're confident a boat broke a rule and is not exonerated. We are dealing with imperfect information all the time. And every now and then you're going to be on team race, especially a team race incident, and 2 boats are going to come out of the left corner yelling at us, yelling protest, and we have no idea what it's about. And unfortunately, we have to green flag that. And then we should hopefully have a quick debrief to figure out what we did in our positioning that had us miss a call entirely. But we want to be confident that a boat broke a rule. They're not exonerated. And one way to do that is, can we explain the decision? So explain it to each other, have good umpire speak, and moving along with it. If neither of us see the incident, we don't have the facts to make it, and we end up green flagging it. And we want to have the facts to be certain. So this is going to be a fairly, so part of this is the first 5 calls in the team race call book. Talk about general principles, and they're pretty essential for all umpiring. The first one is last point of certainty, which means when we think they are something, they continue to be something until we're sure, confident they are not. So if 2 boats are overlapped, they're overlapped until we agree they are not overlapped. If a boat's tacking, it's tacking until we agree that they've completed their tack. And that backs us out of a whole mess of problems of are they or are they not. If we knew what they were, we have a place to go until we're certain that it's changed. Second point, when we disagreement between umpires, and we do disagree, we have a quick attempt to resolve it, and then we go green, even if there's contact. If we are sure we disagree, we green flag it. We don't penalize. Now, sometimes it's a case of, gee, I thought I could do all I could. And it's like, no, I could have done more. And you might look at the other umpire and say, yeah, you're right. And you've got that resolution. But if one of you says, I'm doing all I can, and the other says, no, you're not, as 2 umpires, that's a green flag. So we want to make sure we work on that disagreement, work through that. third point, avoiding contact. We should be looking at all incidents that have contact involve Rule 14. So in college sailing, we have the ability, if a boat hits another boat and there may be damage, even if you're not sure there's damage, we have the ability to spin the boat that broke 14 that is not otherwise penalized. The most common case of that is a port starboard. Starboard just tags the transom of port and makes no effort to avoid contact. We can spin port for the port starboard, and we can spin starboard if it's a hard enough contact that there might have been damage. We can spin them on the water. But every time there's contact, a quick conversation between the umpires of did either boat break 14? And if so, should we be penalizing somebody for that? If there's major damage, significant damage, then it usually goes to a hearing after the race, since simple turns would be insufficient. Fourth principle, seaman-like way. This is a key thing that makes match racing and team racing possible. World Sailing has a case for fleet racing that talks about extraordinary and abnormal maneuvers being unseamanlike. Well, what's unseamanlike in fleet racing might very well be extremely seamanlike in team racing, and team and match racing, where we are commonly going after each other as sailors. The sailors use the rules as a sword, and the expectation of reaction time is accordingly different because of the game. So we need to be aware of that. You don't, if you attack at somebody, you don't expect the boat to say, oh, we got to get people off the rail and uncleat the jib and now say ready about, and 10 seconds later attack the boat. We expect much quicker response time, and the sailors expect it and are ready for it. Fifth and final, this Rob talked about this. We got to keep an eye on where they are in the race all the time. If a boat gains an advantage despite taking a penalty, we can umpire initiate that and spin that boat further. The classic example, we call it get dizzy. A boat there's an incident with a boat, and the boat breaks a rule and the other boat capsizes as a result. The boat that broke the rule can expect to keep doing circles until that other boat gets upright and underway and the penalized boat is behind them. So we call that as a nickname, get dizzy. The sailors are probably used to it as well. There's also a time when it doesn't matter how many turns you give. The boat's in sixth place, but as a result of breaking a rule, their team is in a winning position. And that would be a black and white flag. But we want to keep in mind that advantage after gaining a rule. It's not one of my great strengths in team racing. I tend to get so involved in it, I lose it. So I love having a college sailor as my fellow umpire to help keep me honest on that. All right. So what is umpire speak? We'll right on to the next slide. So umpire speak is this continual dialogue we have as umpires. We each role model a boat. We jump on the boat. We even call it in first person. So I'll jump on a boat and say, I'm boat 13 and I'm starboard right away. And my other umpire will jump, and we just interrupt each other. We're talking over each other all the time. So I'm port give and I'm keeping clear. The pattern we have in team racing, and almost all team racing, is the umpire team, the driving umpire will decide we're going to call the pink team. And it's usually the team with the lowest sail numbers. In most college sailing, it'll be the same team numbers have consecutive numbers. So one team is 2, 3, 4, the other might be 7, 8, 9. And we will call the lower team, the lowest sail numbers. What happens then is the driving umpire, the umpire on the helm, calls the lowest of those lows, or the low number, and then the non-driving umpire calls anybody that happens to attack the driving ump's boat. So if I'm the driving umpire and I say I'm 13 right away and I'm starboard right away, and the non-umpire might say, well, I'm coming at you from above, I'm windward give, and then I'm 18 and I'm coming at you port give. So the non-driving ump actually has a lot of trouble because they've got to identify 2 and 3 boats and keep it all going. We want a concise, umpire speaks, very concise discussion of status. And I'm going to go through that a bit. The phrase we have is, I call it RORO, which isn't quite what the algorithm sounds like, or the acronym, but it's rights, which is I'm right away, I'm give way. The reasons, I'm windward, leeward, port, starboard. My obligations, I'm limited, I must give mark room. My opportunities, maybe I can luff, or I'm entitled to room to tack. It's a best way to stay up to status and keep the decisions quickly. And we've got some examples coming. So the other piece, before I get into a lot of examples on wording, Did somebody need to say something? Okay. Is we want the conversation as we're doing this role modeling to be decision oriented. So we start with a very basic thing: starboard, right of way, a stern, give, I'm keeping clear. When the rules change, so an overlap changes, you're in a zone, somebody starts to attack, somebody finishes attack, all those things that change the rules, those are the things we want to be very careful of and be alert, because that's when things, when what was happening changes, the rules apply differently, and we want to be on top of that. When something changes, there should be a response. So if a right-of-way boat starts altering course, changing course, they're changing their course, and the giveaway boat needs to have a response. The quickest way is if the giveaway boat is keeping clear, they say keeping clear, and we're done. They can be changing, they can be holding, they can be doing all they can. They can be not doing all they can. So some basics, whether it's changing, what the response is, and then that leads us pretty quickly, hopefully, into a decision. Might be green flag, penalty blue 18, do you agree? And we'll go into this in more detail shortly. So the basic rights, I've talked a little bit. So the reasons: port starboard, windward leeward, ahead astern. The rights, you would say I'm right, so short for right of way, or I'm the giveaway boat. The World Sailing Manual, I believe, still suggests that boat say I'm the keep clear boat. I don't like keep clear in this case because I use keep clear for other things. Keep clear is I'm keeping clear rather than I must keep clear. So I always say give. And together you say starboard right, stern give, windward give, leeward right of way, and we move on from there. So the obligations and opportunities. Obligations might be I must keep clear, I must give room, I'm limited in my proper course, I must not interfere, boat on another leg. So we work on a very short dialogue there that clearly identifies that obligation. And similarly, opportunities, I can luff, I can sail above my proper course, I can tack and keep clear, I can cross clear ahead. So maybe I can't tack, but that's the opportunity, the dialogue going. So you're aware of the status and what might be coming across and what might happen. When the rules change, you go from overlap to clear ahead, clear stern. I'm tacking, I'm done. That's usually actually a three-part word. I'm luffing, I'm tacking, I'm done. 17 on or off. I tend to avoid rule numbers, especially in team racing, for two reasons. One, the sailors don't always know the rules by number. They mostly learn the rules by number as a defense mechanism, because the only way they can talk to us silly umpires who insist on using rule numbers. So if you want to talk to an umpire, and this is even more true in match racing than team racing, if you can't talk about the rules by number, the umpires are just going to kind of look at you. And I think that's poor. I think as umpires, we should be much more user-friendly. The bigger reason, especially in college team racing, is the same rule numbers that we talk about in giveaway in right-of-way situations are quite often the sail numbers of the boats we're umpiring. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All those are quite often sail numbers. So was it, you say I'm 13 keeping clear, was that 13 I'm tacking or boat 13? So we tend to avoid rule numbers. We also tend to avoid things where we say an opposite. Instead of I can luff and I can't luff, having different words. So I can luff and I'm limited. So you don't, if you miss the no or the not or the can't or the can, we avoid miscommunicating if we have different phrases entirely for it. When we get to the zone, absolutely zone clear, zone overlapped. And if we say zone overlap, the next umpire ought to be immediately saying I'm entitled to mark room, I'm getting mark room, I'm at an obstruction, and the others I can hail. We're going to add some words on hailing, and we forgot to do that. I'll try to cover that manually, verbally. And then hopefully we'll roll right into a decision. It's a green flag, or it's a penalty, purple 17, do you agree? Or if the protest isn't valid or isn't timely, then it'd be incident closed. So we roll right onto those, and it's a pretty crisp dialogue if we get it right. So the important action words, then some of this gets a little repetitive, but right of way umpire is holding or changing course, and that confirms which boat. So if I say I'm right of way, I'm holding, that's confirms which boat is right of way, the other boat will do it. When I'm the giveaway umpire, if my right of way boat says whatever they're saying, it's I'm windward, I'm leeward right of way, or I'm ahead right, all I have to do is giveaway umpire say keeping clear, And if I'm keeping clear, we've gone all the way to the decision. If there are protests at the boat's keeping clear, in all likelihood, you've got a green flag. If you're not keeping clear, or if there's an alteration, then reacted immediately, reacted late, doing all I can do more. Those are simple ways of talking about what the obligations of that giveaway boat are. We also have a phrase, we have two other phrases that aren't in the slides. One, probably the sailors all know about, was "it's all on me," which is generally a shorthand for I'm the windward boat, I'm giveaway, I've had plenty of time to react, it's all on me to keep clear. Maybe they've, the two boats have come up and one's taking the other up and they're not doing all they can, but that's now slowly going. If they've had an opportunity to do it, we'll often say it's all on me, which means I've got that and I just got to stay clear. There's Alice adding it. The other phrase we'll use a lot is if two boats are, let's see if I can do this in the screen. If you see me on the screen, windward boat is trailing slightly, leeward boat's above. If I'm the windward boat, I'll use a phrase called give. And what that means is I'm either I'm give clear stern or I'm give windward overlapped. But by saying give, what it establishes is we don't really care whether the overlap is there or not because the rights don't change. So give, right. It makes our job a little simpler. If it's the other way around, if the boat's to leeward and they're stern beats no flap is very important in that case. So it's another shorthand we can use to kind of simplify our dialogue. All right, action words when tacking. In team racing, and well, you see this more in match racing where they take a little longer to tack, but luffing, tacking, done. Luffing, tacking, done. And the other umpire is I'm holding, I'm changing, I'm overlap or clear. If a boat is tacking and the other umpire says changing before I get to done, that suggests that we've got a Rule 13 problem. Similarly, if I'm luffing and I'm tacking and the other umpire says clear or overlap before the word done, that helps us establish luffing rights. So that's a place where the simultaneous dialogue helps us quickly get to what rules apply. Similarly, at the zone, it's quite often I find we have that zone conversation as they're approaching. They're 4 or 5 boat lengths out, and we might say, okay, I'm overlapped, I'm gonna need mark room probably. Because usually it's not all that common that overlap is established right at the zone. But if you get it ahead of time, you're doing point of last certainty and you're getting it ready to go. So I'm zone, overlapped, not overlapped, determines the mark room. When you get to an obstruction, so approaching an obstruction, we're at the obstruction, you're looking for the room, you're looking for the hail to tack, and you're looking for the response. If you're at a ley line, leeward boat, if they're limited, needs to take action, they need to jibe for the mark, then you say, I'm at ley line, and the other umpire would agree. Other umpire might say, no, I don't think we're there yet, and you keep going. You want to be careful. I find this very difficult in team racing where you get one starboard tacker and a queue up of port tackers. The first port tacker wants to tack, they've got to make a hail and a hand up, and then you've got a series of responses, and the umpires need to be on those responses and whether enough time is passed and whether everybody's doing what they want to do. Transitions out of the zone, you have tacking, and I'm close hauled, whether I'm overlap or clear. Jibing, in team racing, jibing's a pretty instant. I'm port, I'm jibing, I'm starboard right. There's a change of tack only. In match racing, and I mentioned this just because I know I do a lot of match race umpiring, and I get in the habit of saying jibing, done. In match racing, you give up, there's a period where you are a giveaway boat if you are in the act of jibing. That doesn't happen in team racing. You're either port or you're starboard. So you need to be careful of watching that boat go across. Moving astern, whether or not a boat is back to sail, changes the rules. Returning to start after an OCS, I've returned to start, I've restarted. So those are all transitions that affect what rules apply, and we need to be clear when they go on and off. As we get near a mark, we talked already about zone clear, zone overlapped, passing head to wind. If you're in the zone, that changes it. Out of zone, and this is sometimes particularly coming into Mark 3 on the digital N. you'll get boats and you're setting a mark trap and the lead boat might go out of the zone. So they own the zone, and then bam, they're out of the zone. For them, that all those mark rooms may change. All those overlaps get wiped out and get reestablished when they turn around and go back into mark room. One of the tricks, hard things to get good communication on is when you're within mark room. So you're in the zone and now you've got a lot. Am I taking too much room? Am I taking not enough room? The words we're trying to get down to is if I'm sailing, you'll see in corridor. I don't like that phrase much, but if you're sailing within the mark room you're entitled to, just say I'm within room, I'm within mark room. If I'm wide, then wide. Beyond room, taking more than I need can be, but that's 4 words. So you can just say I'm going wide, beyond room, and then the rules affect that. Mark room given, when you've passed the mark, we can say mark room given, and then it's done. We don't need to worry about it anymore. We also have a common umpire speak tactic when you're coming in. This is particularly useful at Mark 3, where all hell breaks loose, as I like to say, because everybody's setting mark traps and they're all reacting, they're jiving and they're tacking and they're all staying in the zone. Is you can establish a precedence, and it's not really quite in the literal rule, but it really helps sort it out. So the boat that gets to the zone first, usually, first place gets to the zone first, quite often not overlapped. So they own the zone is a phrase we'll say, I own the zone. And then you can establish a precedence. So 13 owns a zone, and then it's 12, 16, 18, 21, and you just line up the sail numbers sort of in the order in which they owe each other mark room. And if everybody stays in the zone and the 2 umpires do that, then you can help clear things out a bit. You'll also see if we get on the radio, if we have a float umpire, they may come in, you may be coming in downwind with the lead boats, and we've got a floating umpire meeting you at Mark 3, that float umpire might get on the radio and say, zone order 13, 12, 16, whatever. So that's one tactic we use to sort out the precedents at the mark room, particularly Mark 3. So if we've done all of this well, and it's hard to do it well, you get the facts established in real time. You've got the obligations all set. You're not waiting. So if you don't do that, then you wait until the whole incident happens and you're just kind of looking at it. And the umpire speak, I readily admit, feels really stupid. When you first do it, you just feel awkward. It just seems right, but you get over it pretty quick. And then you're up to speed with the action. If you just wait and you look, and then you look at each other and say, what do you think? And one might say, I think penalty X, and you say penalty Y, and you don't really know why or how you came to that discussion. So you end up having to do that. Then you're adding new facts and you're adding new presumptions. And 1, your decision is very slow. And 2, you have a pretty high risk of disagreement and maybe even getting it wrong. So this umpire speak process has been developed over a number of years. And as I say, it feels a little dumb when you first start it, and we're going to practice it shortly. But once you get over it, it really does help you stay on top of the action quite a bit. All right, so the dialogue might be, I'm 15, starboard right of way, or I'm 12, port give. Obligations, opportunities. I may luff, I am limited. I must give mark room. I'm changing course, I'm responding. Tacking, overlap, zone, hailing, contact, not keeping clear, change course. One of the things when a boat changes course is you want to clear, was it to avoid the other boat, or was I just changing course because I wanted to? And then confirm a rule broke or not. Penalty on me, penalty on you, no issues. So there's another examples of umpire speak. The World Sailing Manual has a good table in the team racing dialogue on words that are good to use, and it's good practice to work on. All right, in the dialogue, you agree a rule was broken. So contact, penalty me, do you agree? Not keeping clear, penalty orange. Change to avoid you, penalty pink. Or, and I agree, penalize 11. Or I did not see. One umpire, it's not uncommon. Sometimes we're watching 2 different pairs. One umpire doesn't see it. If that second umpire doesn't see the incident, just the first umpire should just think in their head, are they sure of the decision? And if so, go with it. It's our process doesn't mean that both umpires have to see the incident. In fact, sometimes we're umpiring single-handed, but you just have a check in your head. Yes, I'm confident that I've got this incident and I understand it and the decision is correct. we should never be afraid to disagree as umpires. That's quite often we see it differently. Sometimes it's a quick thing we can resolve, and sometimes we can't. Sometimes one of us just gets the rule wrong. And if you can't resolve it quickly, you go green and discuss it after the incident. After the race, usually. All right, this is actually a repeat. So but just in reiterating the importance of I agree and disagree, or I didn't see it. If you're a new umpire, quite often it's easy to be intimidated by the confident international everything that you're umpiring with and assume they know all. Don't assume it. That's how you get better. And if I've learned nothing in team race umpiring, is it can be very humbling. We can be wrong. And the key is to make sure we're better next time and less wrong next time. So on the water, we're going to come back in tomorrow night to talk about handling protests in much greater detail. But the first thing we should be waiting for is we see a hail of protests, and it needs to be the word protest and a hand held high. This is unique to college team racing. Then we've got to allow for any boat to take a one-turn penalty. If we signal a penalty, we signal it loudly. I call it proudly, whistle, and hail the boat's number. And expect that if there's a lot of breeze, they may not hear the number. So you may be doing it again. If there's no penalty, green and whistle proudly. It's quite often we do it really quick. It's like, oh, toot, and then right down again. And the sailors haven't had a chance to see it. So loud and proud. And we will go more into that tomorrow. And that, did I get us back on time? Wow, I got us way back on time.
Sandy, I'd like to add to what you just said, just in general, to encourage everybody. You will not get to this umpire speak necessarily the first time you umpire, and you could still do a good job umpiring. There's no question that I've had very good umpires in the boat with me who haven't said a word because they're just not yet ready to jump into that umpire dialogue. They still are good umpires. So don't feel that if you don't do that, you don't know. But believe me, it's really helpful. And even in match racing, it's absolutely imperative. But even in team racing, it just helps you keep on the right page. It helps you keep your attention on the incident. It helps you keep track of who's right and who's wrong. It really helps you make decisions right away and remember who it was that you're going to penalize. When I'm in an umpire boat with another umpire and we're splitting our attention to two different incidents, I continue to talk my incident to myself in my head, just as if I were talking to the other umpire. And when I'm the ride along, that is not the driver, I stick to my color. So I still talk about the boat that I'm supposed to be covering in that incident, so that if boats do come back together again, I'm still on color. But it really does pay to do. So I strongly encourage everybody to try to get into it as you do it on the water.
I do find that when I'm driving, I'm less talkative. So when I'm not driving, I try to be a little bit more talkative and just sort of help focus everybody and make sure we're on track. But I forgive the driving umpire for being quieter because they've got to think about driving.
Yeah, there's another factor you were talking about, the international umpire. The other problem is experienced umpires tend to make the decisions quicker. And they tend to express them quicker. And make sure you don't get shut out by that. Just because the other umpire said already what they thought was true, don't just say, oh, okay.
Since Sandy so skillfully got us back on schedule, do you want to take a minute to see if anyone has any questions before we split into breakouts?
Andrew Alberti tells us that the World Sailing, at least the team race manual, now says give instead of keep clear. Yay.
There we go. All right, so we've had a little bit of a technical snafu on breakouts. We are going to do breakouts. We're going to go into two different groups. This particular Zoom meeting does not allow breakouts. So I'm going to post in the chat, and I also sent it via email. I will post a new link. And I attempted to make breakout groups. Before we go there, what are we going to do? So within that World Sailing Umpire Manual, there are 10 calls that are sort of the vast majority of the calls that we make in team racing are covered ish by these 10 calls. So we're going to go into breakout groups and practice the umpire dialogue and umpire speak that Sandy's just been talking about using these 10 situations. And so on each situation, we'll pick 2 people to role play the umpires riding in the same boat. One person will be calling each boat in the situation, and we'll go frame by frame how the situation plays out, with each of you giving, the rights, reasons, obligations, and opportunities as appropriate. And we'll conclude with what the decision is, make a call, and then debrief it each situation, both in terms of the umpire speak, and if there's any questions on rules application analysis, we can go into that as well. We'll have reasonably big breakout groups, but we have an hour for this, so it should still allow time for everyone to get a little bit of practice in. I have used the scientific method of alphabetical order here for splitting people into breakout groups. Sandy, did you have something to add to that?
The only thing I did as we go into these, the calls, a number of these scenarios do not have an obvious right answer. It might be whether the 2 umpires calling it agree that a boat broke a rule. And that's a little bit by design. So don't feel as if, oh my God, there's a right answer on these. Some of it is, do you think the boat's doing all they can or not? And the diagrams are kind of intentionally set up to cover both scenarios.
All right, so it's 6:10 now. Why don't we take a 3-minute break? 6:12 now. Take a 3-minute break. And if you are on the left-hand column, come back to this Zoom. If you're on the right-hand column, go to the Zoom link that is in the chat or in your email, and we'll get into the discussion. Any questions?
Yes, Alice, this is John Mooney. I'm sorry I was unavoidably detained. I apologize for being tardy. May I join a breakout group?
Yes, absolutely. Join whichever group looks more attractive to you. You get your choice.
And we'll take note of which one you pick, John.
Yeah.
By definition, it probably means one I'm not in, so you're excused.
So now let's see, I've probably lost. So we've got Amanda here. So Amanda, you are in this room? If she is, she's muted.
She was muted and she waved. She came into the screen.
I'm back, I'm
waved.
back.
Oh, okay. I need control over the slides to be able to put the scenarios up.
Let's find out if I have that power.
Hold on, let me see if I can. No, I have disabled.
Oh, I might have to reclaim host. Yeah, I might do that, and then maybe I can help you. Sam, oh no, there's somebody in the waiting room still. Oopsies. Okay, Sandy, hold on.
No, poor kid.
If
I'm
you have the ability,
sorry.
if you can give me the ability to share a screen, that'll work.
There you go. I think you're the host now.
Awesome. Let's see, let me get the right screen there.
Have all the power.
Share. Excellent. Are you guys now seeing the my screen?
We're seeing your PowerPoint. Yep.
Yay, let me get to the right spot on the PowerPoint. All right. Okay, now the other trick then is, do I have?
Play from current slide.
What's that?
Try play from current slide, and maybe you want to keep them on the left-hand side. That's all right too.
On the left-hand side. Oh, I see. Yeah, no, I don't mind leaving those up. Here I can.
Okay. There we go.
I don't want to go into full screen on mine or I'll end up not having the rest of my displays. Okay.
Sorry, Sam, for leaving you in the waiting room. I don't know how long you were waiting.
It's okay. Thank you, though. Thank you for letting me in. Thank you.
Okay, for our first scenario, how about Amanda? You've got a bunch of umpires in the room there with you, don't you?
We sure do. They're excited.
Do you guys, you want to pick two of them and have them do the first one?
We got a couple of first years in the room. This should go great. We have, oh, they're so scared.
We forget all the
Let's go. We got Hank and Kyle are excited to get involved.
Okay, so the way this is going to work is all sort of, instead of, in real time, you'd have a nice video or we'd be live, but in this case, we're going to take the scenario just one boat at a time. So what I'll do is I'll tell you, we're at position 1, and then you two can come up with the umpire speak as to what you should be saying when the boats are at position 1, and then we'll go to position 2. Who's going to be yellow?
I guess I'll be yellow.
Okay. And that conveniently means that the blue sweatshirt is blue. Yay.
Could we get just a brief reminder of, I don't know, I guess the terminology for this situation?
Okay, so when you are looking at overlapped or not overlapped, what would you expect to be saying?
Oh, well, I guess the overlap and not overlap.
Or ahead, astern?
Okay. All right.
So usually, yeah, when you're not overlapped, you would say I'm either ahead or I'm astern. And then when you become overlapped, then you go to windward leeward. All right, so starting off in position 1, the blue
All right,
boat is
Astern. Ahead.
who's right away?
Blue. You would say give.
Yellow start.
Oh, wait, we don't overlap yet. So can you give still? You can do. Oh, I give? Give?
So that's blue saying, yep, give, clear astern. And then the next piece of that is, are you keeping clear? Blue.
Keeping clear.
So the fast, easy way to say that is I'm blue, I'm astern, keeping clear. On the stern, give, keeping clear. And then yellow would say,
Keep. Give. Giving there. I'm just gonna give.
well, yellow
Maybe,
is, are you?
maybe Sandy, maybe we could go second.
I think that's a great idea.
All right,
Maybe
How
we can
about
watch one or two times.
okay,
that-
how about, I'll pick up a couple of veterans that I see whose names I recognize. Andrew, you want to be yellow, and Fran, you want to dive in as blue?
Okay.
Sure.
All right, position 1.
All right. I'm a
Start-
stern.
Ahead right.
Okay, position 2 is
Windward
overlap.
give. Windward give. Keeping clear.
And if we were in a real team race, we'd also need to know the sail numbers, but for this, they're yellow or blue. So just keep remembering to identify, because it's not obvious to everybody. And in team racing, it's not obvious to each other who you're calling, so.
Okay.
So position
In
2,
position 3, I'm coming at you. Stay clear.
Windward give. Not doing all I can.
okay, and 4,
We're parallel. I'm not luffing you anymore. I'm just
Windward.
holding.
Windward give. It's on me.
are you keeping clear?
Right now, I'm still keeping clear. It's on me.
Cool, and 5,
Contact. Windward give. Didn't keep clear.
Yeah, and but I did come up a little more as you were drifting into me, just to make sure that you kissed me. And
I don't think I actually drifted, but I think you came up.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, I don't believe I was doing all I could in 4. which
I
is
agree with you. So I think we're very easily getting to the decision of 5.
penalty yellow.
Penalty 5, yeah.
Well,
Yellow.
I didn't call them 5 because they're both 5,
Yellow,
but penalty
sorry.
yellow.
penalty yellow.
I don't know if you guys, I have like a maybe unpopular opinion about this.
Uh-huh,
I just feel like when they became overlapped, well, you can see it more in position 3, but like blue didn't give when they became the right of way boat. They might not have given yellow enough room.
Amanda, I'll agree. At position 3, I wasn't extending the speak, but I realized I probably should have referenced Rule 15 or the acquiring right of way. I think in this case, at position 4, blue gave yellow time room and opportunity to keep clear, and then that's why I penalized at position 5. Be right, if I were to revise my speak, I'd certainly reference that acquiring right of way at 3 and how little room was given then. But I think at 4, I could have done something.
Yep. So at position 2 is when the boats become overlapped. So
Oh, sorry,
there's a
position
change
2, yeah.
You go from clear stern to overlapped, and that's when immediately Rule 15 acquiring right away. So the normal speak would be, if say I were blue, I would be, I'm now overlapped and I must give you room to respond. And windward ought to be then responding. I'm windward give, I am responding, or I'm not, or I tried. And that's where that dialogue goes. And then when you get to position, probably about position 4, the clear thought on 15 should be, blue would be, I've given you time to respond. And then windward would agree, yes, I've been given time to respond. And then you might say it's all on me. Make sense?
I think if they're being in contact, Amanda, I think you're right. If they're being contact at position 3, I would have penalized blue.
I agree. And again, it's what you're seeing visually. Is he pulling in a sail or pulling in their sail, pushing the tiller over? What are they doing to stay clear?
What are they doing to get clear?
In fact, in this case, it's the overlap's coming because yellow's slowing down, and they're definitely not doing anything to get up because they've got no sail in.
Right. Okay. We will go on to the next scenario.
At what point does proper course come in there?
Well, one question might be that we don't know.
What
if
leg?
Is this before the starboard? So if this incident is in the pre-start,
There is no proper course.
is no proper course.
But if this
one
was
thing-
later in the leg, it could be a very different call. This could be a 17 call.
Yep. Yeah, if it's after the start, this is almost certainly 17. So that's the other thing when blue comes in and that overlap's established. I'm giving you room and I have a proper course restriction. It's good habit to stay into when you go into this, even if it's pre-start, say overlap from behind, I will be limited at the starting signal. So that you help remember that. More common in match racing. Sometimes they'll do this dance for like a minute and a half and then they'll go off the starting line and lure to the luff. Well, it doesn't matter anymore in match racing. So they got rid of 17. But before it was like, I don't know, it was a minute and a half ago. I have no idea how that overlap was established. So if you constantly remind yourself and just say it out loud, overlap from behind, I've got to give you room to respond.
It was limited.
All right,
Blue was limited on that.
right. And if it's before the start, blue will be limited. So just remember that that's how that went. Okay, next,
start.
another windward leeward. Two different people. Any volunteers? Okay, Don. And how about Bob Austin LaFrance?
Bob, what color you want?
All right, who wants to be yellow?
I feel like I'm brain dead.
I'll take
Bob, you-
yellow.
Good, I'll be blue.
Okay. All right, position one.
Lured right.
Windward give. Overlap.
And, okay, keeping clear or not?
Keeping clear.
All right, position two.
Lured right, altering, giving you room.
Windward give. Keeping clear.
Three.
Lured right, giving you room.
Windward give. Keeping clear.
Could do more.
Could do more
Agreed? And Sandy,
or
you
not.
call
I
for it?
mean, but that's when you want to be having that discussion. I'm keeping clear. I could do more if I need to. Or I'm doing all I can. Which
Okay.
would be a suggestion that blue probably can't come up much more. All right, and then position four.
Lured right, contact. I think you broke 11, penalty yellow 4. Do you agree?
Windward give. I agree.
Okay,
Penalize yellow.
Good job.
Incident
Point
over.
being that at position 3, yellow could have taken more.
Now we have to wait and see if they do it.
right. Yellow could probably, in this picture, I think yellow could be doing more at 3. And then the other thing they might have done at 4 is just over rotate. So if they've got room to luff and tack without their transom going into them, and they swing their transom in anyway, that would suggest that 4 did not break, blue did not break 16.
Right.
If yellow's doing everything they can and now they've got attack and they can't do it without. So every time you have these, you've got that period where not every time, but you quite often have a period where the overlap is getting smaller. The gap between the two boats is getting smaller and smaller. So you want a constant, yes, I could be doing more as windward, or I'm doing all I can. Let's see if my speaker notes have anything I'm missing here.
May I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
So at 3, the distance between the boats laterally is very, very small. And I was surprised to hear that we thought that 3 could do much more in that position. And at 4, it looks like blue is closed even tighter, and that 3 is yellow just couldn't go anywhere.
But how did they get into that position? So say between 2 and 3 and between 3 and 4, could they have done more sooner?
I understand. And I was thinking of that 3, yellow didn't have much more to do.
Right, but they're not head to wind. They haven't tacked away yet, and they've let the gap get slower. So, but this is the conversation you want to be having.
Okay.
And at some point, it's too late, and yellow's gonna buy, and yellow's gonna not keep clear.
Yes,
So I
okay.
think, I think between 2 and 3, I'd be saying I could do more. I could already, or it might be, I need to tack to get out of here. Sometimes you'll have that one said, and if they don't take it, then we get back to that, it's all on me. I had the opportunity to keep clear, and I chose not to take it.
But to be fair, these diagrams are straight from the umpire manual and deliberately ambiguous. They cover both possibilities. That you're
Right.
gonna have to,
They're-
and they say if this, then that call, if that, then the other call. They're both covered in the diagram as being possibilities.
Yep, and that's why I like these, because it kind of helps us think about what should be saying, what do we need as umpires to be deciding as these incidents unfold? And what rules are we worrying about?
And that was true of the last one as well. So there's no right answer to these because they're deliberately designed to cover both possibilities.
And I warned you guys about that.
If you look at position 4, it almost appears that yellow has broken 13 with the tack.
Might have. But you can just, they start
But
breaking a lot of rules.
But is blue broken 16 getting there?
Exactly. The other thing I find, which is a sort of a practical point of college team racing on a beat, quite often leeward will luff and the two boats will go along very close to each other on a beat, really, really close. The crew can't even hike out all the way. And I'm like, I'm windward and I am not keeping clear. I am not keeping clear. I'm not going to go on for 30 seconds. And the leeward boat is happy that they are in control of the situation. So I find that very interesting that a lot of times we'll have windward not keeping clear on a beat and the sailors are just fine with it. All right, let me click on the right screen again. All right, next one, tack new cover. Amanda, you guys ready yet?
Maybe one more.
Okay. All right, so let's see. I have Chris. We already did Fran. Greg, we haven't done you yet, have we?
No, you haven't.
All right, pick a color, guys.
I'll take blue.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yellow, yellow, starboard right.
Port blue give.
Keeping clear?
Keeping
So-
clear.
Okay, and obligations approaching on blue.
Keep clear, give way.
Okay. Position 2.
Starboard right.
Port, blue port, give. Still keeping clear. I have to consider whether I have to tack or duck at this point.
Right. 3.
Starboard right.
And
Port blue, keeping clear, holding course, maintaining course.
okay, what else on yellow?
And no overlap on that I can see.
And yellow, what else have you done between 2 and 3?
I have left, but there's no diagram for that.
Well, you would say luffing or changing course.
Right. I was just looking at 3 and talking about where 3 was, but yes.
Okay, and then step 4.
Windward right. Windward clear.
Port
Windward give,
blue,
I guess. Windward give.
right. Port blue right,
Luffing rights or not?
I have rights.
Agree.
So this diagram's a little hard to show it in real life because what you'd really love to do is have like 3 steps between 3 and 4 where you'd be able to have the dialogue of yellow saying, I'm bluffing, I'm tacking, I'm done. And then the blue boat is saying, I'm holding, I'm stern give, no overlap. That was excellent. And then when the overlap is established, overlapped. And then when the done happens on blue, you can say limited or not limited.
Right, it's a little unclear as to exactly when the overlap is established on this.
Yeah. Indeed it is. All right.
But isn't it true that all you really need to know is that the overlap is established before they're close hauled?
Yes, and that's why having the port boat, the boat that's not tacking, just saying I'm clear, clear, overlap, overlap.
Right.
As the other boat's tacking. And if that word of overlap comes before the tacking boat umpire says done, then you go straight to you're not limited. If it's I'm clear, 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 and he says done, I'm clear, clear, overlapped, now you know you're limited.
Okay. So the key is that whether the overlap was established before he came off to his close hauled course.
Right.
Yes.
It's at the time of hitting close hauled that it matters.
We need a few more diagrams between 3 and 4.
Yep, we do.
Yeah.
And the key speak through here would have been, luffing, tacking,
Laughing,
done.
tacking, done.
And it's a question of timing that done versus the overlap.
Mhm. I try to get in the habit of just saying luffing, tacking, done every time I see a boat tacking, luffing, tacking, done. And then you're in the habit of doing it, so you don't forget to do it when it becomes really important. All right, oops, wrong way. Okay, next scenario. We'll give the kids, we'll give Amanda's kids another one off. So looking across, that would mean Jack and Amy are next. Jack Ryder.
I'll take blue.
Okay.
Blue, give. Need to duck.
Starboard right.
All right, position 2.
Blue, give. Ducking.
Starboard right.
Okay, 3.
Blue, give. Holding course.
All right, and yellow.
Altering course, tacking.
All right.
Luffing.
And as soon as 3 goes past head to win, what's blue gonna say?
Overlap.
Excellent.
Agreed.
All right, and then 4.
Blue, right. Holding.
Windward, give, overlap,
All right, and
and done for the tack.
cool. And 5.
Blue, right. Still holding. Kind of, yeah.
Agreed. Windward bearing down on me.
In
Not doing
contact,
what I
yeah.
tend to avoid. There's no contact yet, but from what I can see, but it's on me.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so the key parts there are when is understanding the overlap, when yellow goes past head to wind. So you're already overlapped. And then the other key thing, which you did well on blue, was 3, 4, and 5, blues holding, 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 because they become right-of-way boats. They gain a 16 obligation. So yellow, from the time, in this case, from the time yellow goes past head to wind, they're the giveaway boat throughout. They're giveaway first because they're tacking, and then they're windward. So that's the key part there. And they're
Would you call the change, the overlap at 3, or wait until they've completed, and in some crazy scenario where they're might end up ahead, would you wait until they complete the tactical overlap?
Yep. In fact, actually, what the more proper speak probably ought to be, if you say at position 3, maybe yellow has gone just past head to wind, then you'd almost mean say blue, I'm now lured, right of way, holding. Usually in this situation, you don't have time to go through the entire, ideally the umpire speak would be, I'm lured, right of way, I must give, well, then the right of way, no 15 would be a phrase, because the right of way changed because yellow changed course. So the boat sort of yellow, I think of it as when you give up the right of way by your own actions, then there's no 15. So 15 kind of turns on when you take the right of way. It's not quite strict rules wise, but actions wise, it works most of the time. So yellow gave up right away, so there's no 15. Their obligation then is purely just to keep clear. And does blue have luffing rights?
Yep.
Mhm.
Mhm. If they exercise those luffing rights between 4 and 5, what must they be careful of?
Changing course.
Changing course, which can be a hard one because a yellow is on an arc to turn and boats don't instantly go the other way. So if blue had altered course in there, you might well end up with a situation where you might find that blue breaks 16.
Which is why this diagram so carefully shows that straight line from 3 to 5,
Right.
and it's on yellow.
Mhm. All right.
Sandy,
Yep.
can you back up 1 second?
Sure.
You said that you thought that they should not make an overlap call at 3. Shouldn't you make that overlap call as soon as you know it?
I think, well, the trick is, and it's a little bit interpreting the diagram, until yellow goes past head to wind, it's still a port starboard.
Right, they're not overlapped, but as soon as the tack happens, that's the time for the overlap call, right?
Right. So if yellow is saying, I'm luffing, I'm tacking, as soon as they say tacking, blue should be saying, I'm overlap.
And I don't know, I haven't heard you say this, but I'm in the habit of saying I'm overlapped and it's a luffing overlap.
Yes, in the middle of this one, it might be a little hard to do that, but yeah, that is the clear, yes, I'm luffing, I'm overlapped, I can luff, subject to, and then.
Subject to 16, right?
Right, and then confirm that there's no 15.
Right.
Some of those words end up, as you get more experienced and you just don't have time, a lot of those words will end up getting cut out, which is one of the reasons I'm really fond when I'm giveaway boat of just whatever the right-of-way boat is, my right-of-way umpire is saying, if I'm keeping clear, I just keeping clear, which says, I agree with everything you said and I'm keeping clear. And it gets us all the way to the decision.
Right.
All right. Back to tacking. Amanda, your kids ready yet?
We think we're ready.
All right.
Redemption. All right, I'll be yellow. Be blue. All right, so I guess I'll say starboard right. Forward changing course heading up.
Okay.
Holding course starboard right. Forward changing course luffing. Holding course starboard right. Overlapped midway through attack. I guess.
Are you overlapped? And what position are we at? Sorry, 4?
But 4 now.
At 4. We're overlapped?
No, before. I think during the attack. Yeah. During the attack, so in 3, there's overlap.
Okay, and then you get to position 4.
So 4, at least for yellow, would be give starboard holding course. I guess I'll have to say starboard.
Starboard?
You're astern.
Give
Got it.
behind give.
Astern,
Yes.
astern.
Astern give.
Stern give is usually what you say. And blue?
Ahead right.
All right, and how long have you been right-of-way boat?
Short time.
So when it's a short time, what else do you need to know about becoming the right-of-way boat?
Acquiring way.
Giving room. Are you giving him room to keep clear?
No. Yes, I guess. Yes. Giving room.
Okay, and then position 5?
Overlapped. Give. Windward. Avoiding.
Okay,
Overlapped. Keeping clear. Right.
all right, and if 5 protests, would you penalize?
No.
5 or yellow or blue?
Yellow, sorry. Well, if either one, but if yellow protests.
No, I agree. Because they completed their time.
Right, so the key in really polished umpire speak would be, the blue boat would be at position 3, I'm tacking, give. Position 4, done. And then right after that, yellow ideally would say, I'm overlapped or I'm not overlapped. So blue says done, yellow says astern give. And then the next one, blue's holding, yellow says I'm altering. But because they were astern briefly and they're able to keep clear, then 15 is not an issue.
Right.
All right, you guys did well. Any questions? Okay, on to another tacking scenario. All right, so looking ahead now, we've done Jack, we've done Amanda, we haven't done Katie yet, or Jack Valentino.
This is another Raj sailor. Let's go, Katie.
Okay, who wants to be yellow and who wants to be blue?
I can be yellow.
Okay, and Jack just went back onto mute.
Yep, I can be blue. Sorry, I'm on
Okay.
a train right now.
Oh, you're on a train. Oh, excellent. You're gonna drive your train mates crazy.
Hopefully not.
All right, position 1.
I'm yellow, right, Katie?
I think I'm yellow.
Okay. I am blue holding. Port holding.
Yellow, port, clear ahead.
And therefore, right away or give way?
Right.
Okay. Position 2.
Port holding. Overlap.
Give way, tacking.
Okay. And if you're give way, what are you keeping clear or not?
Keeping clear.
All right. And 3.
Port holding. Keep clear. Consider tacker duck.
Okay. And yellow?
Starboard, right of way. Tack is done.
Mhm. Okay. And 4.
Heading up, luffing. Keep clear.
Starboard, right of way, holding course.
All right. And 5.
Tack done. Overlapped. Give way. I'm not doing all I can.
If your tack is done, are you still give way?
Oh, sorry. Tack is done. Right. Oh, you're right. You're right.
Windward,
Sorry.
windward, not doing all I can.
Okay. So we have an incident there.
Contact?
I would say let's assume contact. So what do you think?
Penalize blue
Why?
because they didn't give them time. They didn't give yellow time to avoid after completing their tack.
Okay. Could they have done more when they became right of way?
No.
So you've got a, go ahead, Jack.
I would say penalize. I would say penalize yellow. It seems like blue had finished their attack and yellow 5 wasn't doing enough to honor their overlap.
Okay. So what you've got here actually are both boats end up tacking, but at slightly different times. So what you got to decide is, say at position 3, when yellow completes her tack, does she give blue room to keep clear? So blue becomes port tack, giveaway boat. They've got a tack to get clear. And the discussion needs to be then, I got to go. Do I have time to get my tack done?
Right.
Which isn't all that clear to me from the diagram. And then when blue gets their tack done, does yellow now have it, who's back to being giveaway again? Do they have time to respond? And it's going to depend in practice on how much wind there is, how fast everybody's moving, what the conditions are. In light air, almost certainly blue would have had a chance to get it all done. In a good blow, maybe not. So you're going to want to be hearing about, am I doing what I can? Is the right of way changing? And this is one of the complicated ones. So when yellow goes past head to wind, they're giveaway, and then as soon as blue completes, yellow's back to, no, I'm sorry, yellow is lured, then they're tacking their give, they complete their right of way, blue's tacking give, blue completes, and now blue's right of way. So the right of way changes a couple times in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then 15, so 15 and 16 go on and off and on and off, and really the key, so those are the two keys. Did blue do what they could to stay clear when yellow tacked? And if not, then it's on yellow. I'm sorry, if blue did all they could when yellow completed their tack to stay clear and was unable to, then they're good. And if then once they complete their tack, if yellow could have done something. That makes sense? Looking at the any questions? Any thoughts?
None about the umpires speak, but certainly this rules situation has me with a question about what 4 should be doing, but I don't want to coach, because coaching's not what we do. In position 4, though, I think there's more choices for yellow to make.
Meaning?
It's clear that if we take it as a given that blue begins their tack the moment that yellow completes their tack, you take that as a given. Yellow should be realizing that there's not going to be enough room for blue to finish their tack. And maybe in 4, they should luff to give that room to blue to finish their tack. Watching the diagrams, listening to the judge talk, I was inclined to toss yellow in the situation if there's contact at 5.
And as much because blue's doing all they can. And
if you take
therefore,
that's right. If you take it as a given that blue initiated luffing just as at 3 when yellow is complete.
Right.
And respectfully, Greg, I think I am hearing the voice of an IOD sailor. If these were performance dinghies, I think that blue could have spun a hell of a lot faster and dove down a little lower to give the initial room that she gave. So I think I'm back to what Sandy was talking about its wind conditions and its boats. What type of boats are we looking at? Because there'll be differences in their ability to maneuver.
And not to get into the weeds too much, but I look at positions 1, 2, and 3 for yellow and use that as my guide to how do these boats tack properly. And 3, 4, and 5 look similar to 1, 2, and 3. So that was a little bit what I was judging it from.
Okay, that's fair, but
okay, enough said.
One can make 1, 2, and 3 in yellow is doing a nice orderly tack the way she would like to. Blue is obligated to do the kind of tack that gives yellow that gives yellow room initially when she gains her right of way. She's obligated under 15. And yellow, I think has met her 15 obligations at 3.
So this is a conversation that should be happening as these boats are tacking. So,
Okay.
you know, one, yellow comes around, I'm complete. Blues, I'm doing all I can, or I'm not doing all I can. I could have tacked faster. I could have tacked maybe, you know, and hopefully that umpire speak goes when yellow hits 3, yellow says done, and blue ought to be saying altering. If blue waits a little bit and says, now I'm altering, now they haven't responded as promptly as they could. So that's a conversation you have as those two boats tack right there. And John's point about yellow can do, you know, yellow starts it, they do this nice, calm, fast tack. Blue's obligation is to keep clear. So that might require a faster tack than you would in optimum conditions to keep your speed up. Although these are college dinghies, they tack on a dime anyway.
Right, exactly. If these are 420s or FJs, then I would say blue isn't tacking fast enough. If they're IODs, then both boats are probably tacking about as fast as they can.
Exactly. And we haven't talked about it much, but when we get out on the water, I really like to watch the boats warming up and just see how fast they tack and how they maneuver.
Absolutely.
Similarly, my umpire boat. If you ever umpire with me, when I get on a new boat, you'll find I'll spin circles both ways. I'll stop the boat. I want to know what that boat can do with its engine before we're in the heat of battle.
Right.
See, I have somebody that sent me a text message. Is that related to this? It is. Oh, she has, oh, it's way too late. She has a separate version of the slides to use for the breakout. Too late. All right, next one. And how are we doing on time? 6:59. We're doing all right on time. Okay, getting into the Mark 1 situation. Let's see. We did Katie, we did Jack. We haven't done Carter or Tylen.
Sure, sign me up. I can be yellow.
Okay, Carter's yellow. Tylen, are you able to? We have some people that are sort of auditing, so they may not want to participate. John, we've done you once. Should we do you again? Or have I done you yet?
No, you haven't done me. I'll be blue if you like.
Okay.
All right. So position 1, leeward right, giving you room.
Windward give, entering the zone, taking my room.
Right. Okay. Position 2, still leeward right, still giving you room. We're getting a little close, but we're still there's room there, I believe.
Windward give, taking my room. There's sufficient room.
All right, 3.
All right, still leeward right, and you have plenty of room to make your tack.
Tacking.
All right, and who's right away?
Giving way, tacking.
Okay, 4.
And I am now tacking, and I'm now tacking and keeping clear.
Done, clear ahead. Right.
Right, and 5, I am stern give and keeping clear.
Ahead, right.
All right. When she fails to keep clear, they are suggesting in the notes on this one that yellow isn't keeping clear as they pass Mark 1. Not sure I would agree, but if yellow is not keeping clear at position 2 of blue, what would the conversation be?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I agree either, but I guess I would say, I guess blue would say you're taking more room. You're taking more room than, I think you're taking more room than you need. Or you're wide or outside your mark room.
Yeah, so that's the conversation there. Yellow said, yeah, I'm windward give, I'm entitled to mark room, and I'm in my room, which would be, or in corridor is the other phrase that you hear occasionally. I don't see it that much, but just I'm taking room, I'm
In my lane. Something like that. Yeah.
and if I don't keep clear and I'm not taking too much room, then it's penalty blue.
Right. I think that the only place to me that where that's arguable is at 3. That's a kind of a slow tack, and so they might be out of their. They might be outside their room.
Is 3 entitled to, or is yellow entitled to room to tack there?
Yes, because she's an inside overlapped boat.
Right.
With mark room.
Exactly. So if her transom swings into blue in position 3, who would take the penalty?
Well, that's where we would have the argument about whether or not the tack was close enough. I would say that it's a in this particular case it's a near run thing, because I think blue has given tons of room. And yellow has taken all the room she could conceivably be owed, if not more.
And as soon as she tacks, 18 turns off.
Correct. Once she's passed head to wind, but she is entitled to, well, if she's tacking promptly at the mark while she's entitled to mark room, her mark room while they're overlap does include room for her to tack.
Right, 18 2 shuts off, but 18-1's still there. Right?
Yeah, I don't.
No, I was going with John's saying that they were taking too much room, so.
Right, and what does yellow lose if they go on past the mark? Do they break a rule right off the bat, or how do their obligations change?
I'm sorry, what is yellow?
Yeah, so yellow at position 2, I think we agreed, is entitled to mark room. They're also windward give, and they're entitled to room to tack as part of that mark room.
Yes.
So as you get to position 3, they've kind of gone past the mark. What changes for yellow?
They've been given their mark room.
Exactly. And so their obligation then is simply to keep clear.
Right.
Means they may no longer be able to tack, or they have to tack slowly so they don't swing their transom in.
Yeah.
Okay, if at, say, position 3, so I'm trying, there's yellow's given room but does not tax matter obligation, may now luff. So at between position, supposing at position 3, yellow just keeps going straight instead of completing their tack, and blue rolls into attack. This is not uncommon in team racing. You'll see that a lot. Yellow will be in there, and then they'll just luff head to wind because they want to keep blue out. They don't want to let blue tack. So that's the other conversation. When yellow luffs at position 3, you want to be careful about whether they've gone past head to wind or whether they're staying on starboard. And this usually happens when you're the umpire boat directly above them. So they're now sailing right at you if you haven't gotten your position right. But Rob will go into that tomorrow.
Right. Up until the point at which they go past head to wind, they can keep luffing. But 3 can luff them until the point, and they still have to keep clear, because they're no longer having a mark room problem.
Right.
They've gotten their mark room. They're now a windward boat that has to keep clear. So they can keep luffing while they're keeping clear, but
Mhm.
blue can luff head to wind. Blue can luff two head to wind and still holds on to her leeward boat rights.
Mhm.
And if she does that properly, she'll do it in such a way that yellow will ultimately have to tack away to keep clear.
Right. Okay. On to the next one. We'll do, these are slightly different scenarios, but we'll do the one on the left first. And let's see, I think Hans had a text message earlier, their chat that said he's just auditing. And he also had a comment that, yes, it looks harder. I think in a lot of ways, these scenarios are harder to do on the screen than they are in real life. So if you feel a little lost and a little awkward about it all, don't fret. Okay, so rolling back around to the top, Bob and Chris are the next. I'll give yeah, we'll go with Bob and Chris on this one.
Okay, I can take blue.
I'll take yellow then.
All right, so we're doing the left-hand diagram, correct?
Yep, left hand first.
Okay, so blue starboard tack astern.
And yellow is starboard tack clear ahead.
Okay,
And right away or give way?
Right.
Right away.
okay. Position 2, blue starboard tack, clear astern, inside the zone.
And yellow is starboard tack, holding course, right.
Okay. Position 3, blue, I would say luffing, although the sail is not showing it, certainly heading up. No overlap. And astern.
And at position 3, yellow is luffing, still right.
Okay. Position 4, blue starboard. Is there contact there or is that clear? That's kind of hard to say. But I'm going to say blue starboard right because it appears that yellow is done.
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? Is there contact or not? At position 4, yellow is done, port, give. I would argue that they took a little bit more space than they needed. But
There's also,
but blue didn't have any rights in there.
Responded to the luff and kept clear of 3 when they were. Maybe that's what they were doing at position 3 when they headed up. Chose to duck. That's hard to say.
I haven't heard a word throughout this that should be there whenever there's a mark in play, and that is
Overlap?
mark.
Yeah, are they in the zone or not?
I don't
So
believe
roughly
that.
It's
I
in
don't
that
believe blue
too.
was in the zone. I don't believe there was an overlap when I got to the zone. So they don't
Right.
have any rights.
So roughly at position 1, yellow's pretty close to 2 boat lengths out. So that part of that umpire speak should be, I'm ahead, right of way, zone clear.
Zone.
You're
Okay.
not entitled to mark room. So you clarify that, not entitled to mark room right off the bat there. And then that leads you to a position 3 when blue sticks their nose in.
Okay.
They are now taking mark room to which they're not entitled, which
entitled.
isn't necessarily a problem, but they remain give way boat.
Okay.
And must keep
And-
clear.
And then at position 4, they recognize that and allow yellow to they take yellow stern.
Okay, and in that process, what's yellow doing?
Tacking.
All right, and when they tack, what are they? They right away or giveaway?
While they're tacking, their giveaway.
And are they entitled to room to complete that tack at the mark?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Oh,
Why?
why
Part of the
not?
rounding in proper course, correct?
Yeah, so it's one of the subtleties of 18. So yellow is clear ahead at the zone, so blue's not entitled to mark room. And yellow is entitled to mark room, but mark room only includes room to tack if you are overlapped inside at the time as you go around the mark. So if you break the overlap as you get to the mark, then you lose that right to tack. So when blue goes in at position 3, she's got to keep clear of yellow. There's no I'm entitled to mark room there. But when yellow goes to tack, she is not protected on that tack. So she's just a tacking boat. She's give way from basically just past position 3. And then at position 4, what is blue doing?
Blue appears to be taking yellow stern, although she is starboard in that
So
case.
she's gonna hit their rudder and throw them out.
Right.
Yeah, as soon as yellow goes past headwind, 18 goes off because they're
turns
not
off.
on the same tack anymore, and yellow is attacking boats. So they're give way really for the rest of the incident.
Yep.
And when blue has to duck them, that's a penalty yellow.
Yep.
The key here on yellow's part is yellow has to go up to head to wind, but not cross it until blue
Right.
takes their stern. So at about 3.1 or 3.2 as a position, yellow has to sort of hold that course because they're entitled to it. They're clear ahead of the zone. They have the right to mark room, but they don't have the right to tack. So they have to wait for blue to take the stern. As soon as blue's taken their stern, then they tack.
Right. And that's a pretty common thing to have in team racing as you get there. And if yellow's smart, what they will do is they'll just scrape
Tighten it
right
up.
by mark 1. And then when they luff to tack, the mark will act as a block for them, and they'll be able to roll right into attack. And blue wouldn't be able to get to them without hitting the mark. So that's what they normally do, but that's what they try to do. But quite often they'll leave that bit of gap there. And if blue gets their nose in, as long as they stay clear before yellow starts to tack, they can keep yellow from tacking.
In this scenario, say blue at position 4 had decided to tack, would that not be room freely given and they would be tacking into a lured right position?
That's a judgment call, but yeah, that you would look at the timing of blue's altering. So if blue altered, say at position 3.5, and it was a choice of theirs, then you might say, yeah, that alteration wasn't to avoid contact, and that's a judgment call on our part. And it's not all that uncommon. Blue may well say, hey, I want to get going to mark 2.
Right.
I've
Right, I'll
succeeded
my
in
pickup.
passing yellow, and now I'm going to go on a mark 2 and set the next mark trap. Amanda, does that make sense from a tactics point of view?
That's exactly right.
Okay, so now we have a slight change. Let's see, we got the next one. Let's see, just did Bob and Chris. How about Fran and Andrew?
Sure, though, I'll give up my position if we've got new people who want more practice. I'm learning the team racing side, but I've done a lot of umpire speak over the years. So
Right. Jack, you want to dive in? Ryder?
Yeah, sorry. You say I'm blue?
Okay, I'll be yellow.
Copy to me.
I'm clear ahead on starboard.
Blue, astern, give.
Okay, at position 2, I think I've entered the zone. And I'm still clear ahead, but I'm not in a good position. Okay. I'm
Blue,
screwed.
oh yeah, blue, astern, give. Not quite in the zone yet either.
All right, I'm luffing head to wind. I haven't gone beyond it position 3, and yes, I have left the damn door open. And, there you go. Take it.
Blue, give holding course. Astern, slightly astern.
Yeah, I think you're still slightly astern, but I'm wishing you weren't, but yeah. But there's still a big ass gap there. And now I'm going beyond head to wind, so I am tacking and you're trying to hit any part of the back of my boat. And I understand that. And
I'd say blue altering at 4.
yeah.
So that's danger for me in 16. So
Yeah, but it's really on me because I was tacking, even though at 4 I'm now complete, but I'm give way because you're still on starboard. And I'm still hoping and praying I get by your bow. And if I don't, I'm spinning.
Franny, we decided in the room over here that you know, when you get to do some more umpiring, we want you mic'd up, and we want to hear all that commentary and editorializing.
Okay. The coach keeps slipping through.
That's okay. Yes,
I'd only be nervous within position for the altering.
Yeah.
Especially no contact, immediate green, but if contact, it'd be, I'd bank on that a little more.
Yes.
Regardless of the tack, but I think that was just a quick, based on this, it's a quick alter.
Yeah, 4 is definitely trying to fake, I'm sorry, blue to me. I mean, it's easy in this diagram to see yellow 3 and blue 4 and think they're the same point in time. But yellow's making attack, they're clear ahead when they started, and then blue's next course alteration is up towards them, which we would call hunting. And then blue, and if blue held their course after hunting and there was nothing yellow could do, then that's going to be a penalty on blue for 16. But blue can get out of that by taking yellow's transom, which is what they do. So in real life, you see this scenario and you have yellow screaming, well, you have blue screaming starboard, 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 and then it gets a green flag. And what the umpires just need to do is be watching blue's course. Is blue luffing? Are they holding course, or are they hunting them up? Sometimes blue hunts up. They just so want to get to yellow that they tend to hunt up a bit and not even know it. I've had sailors just adamantly, I wasn't altering it, and you can just see them curving up because they just so want to get to that boat, and they don't always realize they're luffing a bit. Okay, on to the next one. There we go. We're getting into a fun, now we're getting complicated ones. Well, possibly. Okay, let's see who's next. We just had Jack, so shall we go with Don and Amy?
This Don?
Weinecke, yes.
Yeah.
Sandy, hold on for just 1 second. Alice said she.
You muted again. You muted in mid-sentence there, Amanda.
My bad. Can you let Alice and anybody else who's in the waiting room in?
Do I have that ability?
You're the host.
I'm the host. I am screening, stop share. Let's see, get that out of the way. New share, remote control apps, participants.
Yeah, bring up the participants list and then you should see a whole bunch that want to be admitted if there are any. Right at the top of the participants list.
Admit all, thank you. Oh, we got all kinds of new people.
It's all the other, it's the other group coming back.
Zoom manager.
And then Sandy, I think once Alice is back in, make her the host.
Okay, yeah, and what I think that's just telling me is we're out of time.
It does seem like that.
All right, so now let's see. Participants.
I'm here to tell you you're out of time.
More, how do I change host?
I think it'll just let me,
You can take it over.
I think it'll let me steal your screen.
Well, I can stop sharing. That's, oh, no,
Yeah, you should be able to stop sharing, Sandy.
I already stopped sharing? Oh, no, there.
No, no, you should be able to. I said, no, you're definitely
Okay.
still sharing. We're still seeing. That's it.
Okay. Okay, and
Looks like we've got, oh, I'm not the host. I can't screen share.
let me see if I can, there we go. Now I got a list. Where's Alice?
We don't have everybody here yet,
They're on their way.
hopefully. Do you have
But
to
they
let
can
them
do-
in? Somebody
they
has
can-
to let them in.
Oops,
Amanda's let them in.
hold on, I might have just accidentally made John the host. John Mooney, I think I just made you the host by accident.
Oh, okay. Hang on. How do I get rid of it?
If you click on the participants list.
Yeah.
Had you think 2 years into COVID, we'd have this down yet.
Right,
You should, on the right-hand side of your screen, get a list of all the participants.
right.
Go select Alice, Leonard, comma, Alice,
There we go. Okay.
and then the more drop down, and one of those should be to let her be host. Or make her the host.
Make host. You're
Right.
on, Alice.
All right. I forgot.
Boy, it's a good thing John was cooperative there. He could have held us all to ransom.
This is the Zoom seminar portion of our training. All right. I know our group did not get through all of them. Sandy, from the looks of where you all were, it looks like you got about as far as we did. So wanted to quickly do a debrief, and I don't want this to be me, Rob, and Sandy talking. So I want folks to chime in from the different breakout groups. We will cold call if necessary. But what did people find most challenging about umpire speak? What do you think this will make this even more challenging in the real world? And then, you know, if we have any tips or tricks to help with those, we will shout them out.
I think the hardest thing for me is just sticking to the succinct vocab instead of the words you use when you're sailing. You
Yeah,
know,
Steve.
limited vocabulary is hard.
Yeah, Steve, I was thinking kind of exactly the same thing as that kind of switch between like colloquial sailing terms and the technical terms.
Yeah. And one thing we noticed in ours is that like the umpire manual version of it is very good and covers like 95% of it, but every now and then there's a word that you throw in like ducking or a sort of more common sailing term that just makes sense to use in the moment. And that's totally fine. I see Molly has her hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna say the jargon, but then also just like in my head connecting like what the rules are to what's going on in real life and not like second guessing that. And it's probably even harder in real time when it happens so much faster.
Yeah. Rob, I have one tip on that, which is before I do umpire any event, I just go through the call book and read calls just to sort of like get your mind in that mindset of like, I'm seeing boats converge, I'm applying rules, not I'm thinking strategically about where I need to go. And so my other tip, if you're reading the call book, not for the first time, if it's the first time, start from the beginning. If it's not the first time, skip the first half. And like get into the meteor calls first. Otherwise you run out of energy for the 180-page call book.
Yep. A different order each time.
Yeah. Pick a letter, start there.
The other thing I've always had an issue with or problem with in my own head is the diagrams are, you know, looking down from above, and where we're positioning ourselves, we're looking horizontally, not vertically. And you could hear some of Amanda's kids were having problems going, well, wait a minute, what's 4 and 3? And, you know, so the diagrams, you know, you have to learn how to read them properly.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about trying to, we didn't have a lot of time to do it, but we talked a little bit about animating the diagrams, and Alice says she's tried animating diagrams for this kind of training, and it complicates things more. What might work is sort of animating, but having the session speaker in control of the pace of it. So you can start with step one, and you only see step one, and then you can click the down arrow and bring up step two. So then that progression might be a little bit more clear. Because yeah, there was one where I kept thinking I was looking at blue 3 and yellow 4.
One of the things that I've found that works pretty well, and Dave Dellenbaugh has some very good video of it, and he can step through each of the frames of the video, and you go, okay, what's going on here? What's going on here? What's going on here? And it works out very, very nicely. It takes my brain, I have to stop and look when I'm looking at these diagrams. And it's counterintuitive to the horizontal that I'm seeing when I'm on the water.
Not to mention that we have a problem that we kept on saying, well, when 3 luffs, you say, no. Both boats are 3.
Yeah.
And this ability to read these diagrams is a special skill, and unfortunately, in order to read the call book, you have to develop that skill. It's a shame because I know of at least 2 people who never became successful umpires, never were able to pass the tests. Who were on the water, they were fine. They just cannot read those diagrams.
I think that diagrams actually, in some ways, make some of this more difficult because and Sandy alluded to this a little bit in our session. There's no continuum. There are leaps from one static point to another, and often it's somewhere in the middle of the leap that the action happens.
Yep. We also, in our group, had a bunch of the situations where the answer could be either, which Sandy teed up before we started. Depending on, the facts in the real world, either boat could get the penalty.
And unfortunately, I mean, those situations from the manual were deliberately chosen that way. The manual's doing it, so it does make it challenging for maybe initial calling. People need to start with some obvious ones and then transition to the more ambiguous ones.
Yeah, we're trying to accomplish two things at the same time. One, go through those 10 basic calls, because they really do kind of say, here are the things you need to be thinking about on each one. One thing that can help, it's something that Kirk Brown is an international umpire out of California. He likes to talk about loading up the deck. So as you're approaching the weather mark, you start thinking through your head, okay, these are the rules that might come into play as I'm approaching the weather mark. You think to yourself, okay, mark room's going to come in and this is going to come in. And then you get down to the leeward mark and you get to the pre-start. So he talks about it sort of loading the deck of a set of scenarios in your head that might be coming up. So I think our first scenario with Mark 1 in play, they're talking all about it, but nobody mentioned the word mark room at all. So just kind of remembering that we're getting near the mark, so that anticipatory of what's going to happen next and what rules apply might be useful.
Yeah. All right, I'm conscious we are at time, and just wanted to, in our last minute here, tee up where we're going to go tomorrow. So we'll do a quick recap from today and answer any questions that occur to you in the next 22-ish hours. And then we'll talk through some more detail on umpire boat positioning. So how do you get in the right spot to see what you need to see and make the call? And then, as Sandy alluded to earlier, we'll double click into some of the protests and procedural items, and then we can go back into going through some of the additional situations. So the ones that we didn't get to today, plus a few more to do a little more practice on both rules application and umpire speak. And with that, we will see you all tomorrow evening.
And I don't know about Rob or Alice, but if anybody else wants to stay and throw more questions, I can stick around. Oops, I'm muted.
Yeah, I'll stick around for a minute or two anyway, if Sandy, if you're going to be there.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you guys.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow. Yep, thanks, guys.
Amanda's kids look hungry.
So what are Amanda's kids doing with the, oh, they've got a table, oh, I see, it's just a table. I thought it was a transom of a boat. I'm looking at a.
She can hear you, by the way, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're round tables and the, halves of rounds. And then
Right.
the camera itself just like moves. I think it senses sound and zooms in. That's what it wants.
It looks like a boat area. Yeah, it really did when it zoomed out, looked like boats. Yeah.
So I guess real quick question for Sandy, Alice, and Rob, which we didn't talk about. People taking the exam tomorrow night. No, I can have them piggyback off of the in-person one, I think. In later February.
And we're looking at each other. I'm looking and saying, what exam?
Okay,
Yeah.
no worries. All good, all good.
You just got ignored.
Don't worry.